Welcome to MRII's Insights and Innovators podcast, where we talk to top market research professionals to get their inside stories about innovative and enduring best practices. Today's episode is sponsored by YPulse. YPulse is the leader in youth research and insights, and the leading expert on Gen Z and millennials. YPulse powers the youth strategies behind the world's most popular brands. Now, here's your host for today's episode.
I'm John Lass, President of Sports and Leisure Research Group and past President of the Insights Association and Marketing Research Institute International. On today's episode, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Marcus Cunha, Jr., the Director of the University of Georgia's Masters of Marketing Research Program. In addition to his academic and administrative responsibilities, Dr. Cunha sits on the editorial review board for the Journal of Market Research and has been lauded for his teaching excellence at the university's Terry School of Business. Before joining the UGA faculty, Marcus's academic background included teaching at the University of Washington and serving as a research associate at the University of Florida. Today, we're going to take a look at the current state and future of market research training and education with a focus on practical strategies for those looking to optimize their professional development in the industry. Marcus, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I know it's easy to fall back on cliches, and one cliche that we hear all the time in the market research industry has been that the industry is in a constant state of evolution and change. And I'd love to start by having you think back across your career and share some of the more significant things that you've seen transforming the practice of market research over the past several decades.
Sure, yeah, of course. For sure, this idea of evolution permeates our industry. There are many factors that have led to the industry to evolve. A couple things that really made me think about how the industry has changed. The first one would be, I think, the democratization and access to research through making technology and knowledge more available has been transformative in our industry. So we're probably seeing a few decades ago as an industry where there's like this mad scientist that knows all these methods that do not interact well with other people, and they they can write these esoteric codes and comes up with these statistics to present to us, and then we don't understand anything they're talking about. I think the democratization and the access to technological tools, statistical tools, the do-it-yourself of the industry, access to knowledge has made the potential for our careers and industry to impact business. Right. So what only a few had access to and were able to understand, now it's available to many people, whether through formal education, like the MRII does like a great job of disseminating that at a scale level. We do at a more like an in-depth level through our Masters of Marketing Research program. But we also, this access to these tools have become democratize the insights industry and make it more available to people that might not have that traditional training that many of us had. However, although this could be a good thing, it's also dangerous, right? You put tools, research tools or survey tools in the hands of marketing managers who do not have the knowledge about the method or how to do good research. That could lead to potential not so good research. So I think that this idea of more access to the technology, method, and knowledge is a good thing that transformed our industry and also brought more awareness about our industry. Another trend that I see is that the industry has shifted its focus, which I think it's a good thing, from the analysis and the statistics to more identifying insights that can impact business. More like it's kind of like a less is more. Instead of having decks of 300 slides with a bunch of statistics, we're better at focusing on how can we impact business and how can we impact decision making. So, and that led to developing the necessary skills so people can not only run and execute analysis, but they can also communicate them to the decision makers.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've talked about this a lot in my business and with others, just the need to kind of mesh that pragmatic side of what we're really trying to accomplish and bring utility to our clients, either externally or internally, coupled with the rigor that still is at the heart of what market research is all about. I'm curious, at the same time that this evolution has taken place, you've certainly had a front row seat to watch the evolution of the talent of the students passing through the program. How do you define today's successful researcher? What are the necessary skills and personal attributes that correlate best to professional success, both academically and in the business world?
Yeah, I think this second question to some extent relates to the previous one, is this idea of we are creating the foundations, the methodological foundations, but we are focusing a lot more on consultative skills, right? Yeah, being able to run the analysis and figure out if things are statistical significant, yeah, they're important, but so what? What do we do that in terms of influencing the decision making? And the way to influence decision making in businesses and organizations, it is not by trying to show that you know all these super advanced methods, but how can you walk people through, understand how that piece of information, how that nugget of insight can help them to think better about their problem, right? So how they can influence others inside of the organization. And a lot of times that's not the statistic, is by persuasively presenting an argument. So to that extent, in terms of educating our students, we have focused a lot on developing presentation skills, developing data visualization skills in order to be able to influence decision makers.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm dating myself with this cultural reference, but there was a great routine that a comedian had many years ago called the 5 Minute University. And his whole bit was, I'm going to teach you just what you'd remember 5 years after you finish going to school. So like the example he gave was in economics, all he taught you was supply and demand, because that's the only phrase you're going to remember. And it's almost like we're suggesting that this is really, this ability to synthesize is something that's really become even more acutely critical in the business world today.
Yes.
Does it change has it changed the types of students or the backgrounds of the students that you've seen come through the program, based on where it was maybe 20 years ago or earlier in your career?
I think we have more actively expanding the base of students that we're going after, instead of being students that come straight from like business programs. We have a large number of students that come from like humanities, like psychology, people who are, or sociology, or political science, people who are interested in human behavior. It's very easy to persuade them to pursue a career in market research. And I think they bring a lot of interesting insights and knowledge into our industry, because we are all about understanding behavior.
And I guess the other thing that we've seen, and you touched on it a little bit with some of the skills that people need to have, we've seen the whole process of training and education also see dramatic transformation in recent years. I've been on the board of MRII now for over a decade, and I've seen us go from the textbook to abandoning that textbook and now teaching the core of our principles program, and breaking that down into the more concentrated Principles Express programs. How does this translate to what you've done within the master's program? And again, how do you balance the need to meet students with where they are today and with the rigor and science that have always been the foundations of what we're learning?
Yeah, I think for some courses, some of the more traditional methods of using a textbook still apply, especially for like a methods course. But we have changed our curriculum to focus more on like shorter, up-to-date readings, cases. Very few of our courses have final traditional exams. They will have final projects, but not like an exam that you're going to study for 12 hours. a lot of our classes are super hands-on, projects, or we even like we do what we call our research hackathons. I'll bring a data set that came to me from somebody who had a problem. It's like, here's the problem, here's the data. Let's think about how we're going to help this person to solve the problem based on what we studied last class. So, for example, my course has no exams at all, and it is a mix of individual and team assignments. And I think is heavy on the individual assignments as well, because one thing that we noticed in the past is that, students do some sort of a distribution of labor in team assignments, where like, hey, you're good at programming surveys. I'm good at PowerPoint. You're good at analysis, right? So that lets people to become specialists in what they're already good and not getting exposure. So the individual assignments kind of force you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You do have to do all of the steps of the project so you get exposure to all of them. Another thing that also has, influenced a lot the way we teach is that we have developed partnerships with panels in the industries with AYTM, Rep Data, and LNE research for both qualitative and quantitative research. So students learn what's the impact of a survey being too long on the cost of a survey.
Right.
Or, hey, I want to use a conjoint. Yes, a conjoint is going to be a lot more expensive, right? Because used to be, for class projects and so on, the students would ask their friends to, respond to the surveys. Now we use professional panels that support us to do that.
I love the way you kind of push people out of their comfort zones. It harkens back to a series of programs that I used to run at a variety of MRA seminars back in the day, where we kind of brought together people from different aspects of the industry, field data collectors with analysts, and kind of made them take on, it was called Anatomy of a Research Project, and they would take on roles that they weren't normally doing. There's so many different ways, obviously, to kind of go about diffusing what we learn and what we need to know within marketing research. And it's there's so many options as well for people that are trying to keep their skills up to date. And we seem to see, just as society has valued shortcuts, there's a lot of more condensed programming out there for people that are looking to advance their training in the profession. And you talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'd love for you to reflect a little bit further on where does the line get drawn between where professional development solutions come about, the balance, if you will, between professionalism and being concise.
Yeah. So you mean in terms of the education?
Yeah, in terms of what the, how information is being disseminated. Again, you got everything from, YouTube videos to Coursera's to obviously a much more formal program like at the Terry School.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, like any researcher would think about a research problem, I would say, like, be very careful about the source, right? It's something is free, either the quality is not good or you're the product. Right? Think about like, Google give you everything for free, yeah, because your data is their, is their product. That's how they're making money. So I would say still focus on resources that are reliable, such as the MRII courses or the graduate programs, Coursera's, LinkedIn Learning. That can give you like, a little bit of a basis for becoming a insights professional. But I would think like something. It is a profession that requires a methodological foundation. So based on that, I wouldn't go, try to learn about doing market research by searching YouTube videos. I will go through a more formal route, such as the ones we mentioned.
I know we could talk a lot longer about this. We're getting near the end of our allotted time. I want to wrap up by just kind of getting your perspective and vision of what the industry will look like 10 years from now, and how will that impact the programs and research education in general?
Yeah, I mean, we could all make a lot of money if we knew, right? The answer to
Exactly.
that question.
We have our thoughts, though.
I know, yeah. So I think like we are at a point where we need to figure out as an industry if we are going to be a revenue center or a cost center. If we're doing a lot of excellent research that goes into the proverbial drawer in our computer that's not being used to influence decision making and link to ROI, we will become a cost center. And by becoming a cost center, when economic downturns happen, you know who goes first, right? So we need to really position ourselves and link ourselves to our ROI. Now, we also need to think like in the face of new technology, AI, and other computational advancements, are we going to be servants to the AI, or are we going to use AI to support our work, right? I think the industry is trying to figure that out right now. Like, what's the role of AI? I really do hope that AI will be a very important tool in your toolbox, but I think that the consumer behavior will evolve. And to that extent, AI might be always a step behind. By the time the AI gets trained,
Right.
things might have changed to that. So it will be to our advantage to stay a step ahead, use AI heavily to support you on your activities, but always with this focus like how can I be one step ahead of AI by better understanding consumer behavior.
Yeah, there's always that contextual piece that I think, at least in the short to medium term, can only be added by experience and only be
Yes.
added by what people have actually witnessed and how they've applied it. So
Mhm.
it's obviously the big question, and we will see it and others answered as time
Yeah.
goes on.
No, there are great uses for it. I use it a lot, and things that used to take me time to do or have to do programming to do stuff. Now I use AI. To clean up data files or merge data files, I use AI. So I use it heavily as I would use a research assistant or like a junior researcher. Some of the work that junior researcher would do, like more of the grunt work. I
Mhm.
mean, it's been excellent, a great productivity tool for me.
But of course, in some cases, it doesn't obsolete the role of junior researcher. It just
No,
refocuses and redirects them into something a little
yeah.
more value additive.
I mean, because if you went through a program like the MMR program or a certification through MRII, uh, you don't want people that you made them better thinkers to be doing grunt work.
Mhm.
You want to better optimize the usage of their knowledge rather than just getting them to do like grunt work.
So still a great opportunity for people emerging into the industry. I thank you so much for being on the podcast, and we will see you in our next episode.
Cool.
Thanks for joining MRII's Insights and Innovators podcast. Be sure to subscribe and listen to all of our podcast episodes and visit us at mrii.org for more insights from market research professionals.